The Middle East tensions continue to play out here in Australia in a horrible fashion. You know, we've had people marching in support of Hamas, can you believe? And we've had people chanting, "Gas the Jews," at the Opera House. I mean, just think about that. Does that not change your perception of this country or increase your worries at least? Your fellow citizens chanting, "Gas the Jews"? None of them arrested for that yet, though. Lucky, I suppose, they weren't marching against vaccine mandates, I guess. But have a look at this. This placard was displayed at a pro-Palestine event in Melbourne on Monday. Again, it's more about anti-Israel and anti-Semitism than it is pro-Palestine, wants Israel abolished, calls Israelis dumb white dogs. I mean, what sort of people do we have in our midst with this stuff? One of the problems is the media framing, the worldwide political and media framing of Israel. Even when it's clearly the victim of some of the most atrocious terrorist attacks of all time, Israel is portrayed not as the victim, but as the aggressor. I showed you how most of the world was told that Israel had killed 500 innocent people by bombing a hospital in Gaza, when within hours it was clear the hospital car park had been hit and the bomb was fired by Islamic Jihad, another Islamist terrorist outfit aligned with Hamas. Some media are now apologising, but the damage is done, of course. It turns out the enemies of Israel had killed about 50 of their own people. Yet Israel wears the shame and the exaggeration because the Hamas propaganda machine spreads lies and the media are only too keen to amplify them. And we've seen these attitudes play out in Canberra today, when the Israeli ambassador to Australia fronted the National Press Club and made the most salient and cut-through point.
We are the victims. It's important to understand it. We were attacked. Our people were slaughtered. We didn't ask for this war.
But predictably, questions from the journalists aggressively accused Israel of breaking international law and, in the words of this ABC reporter, acting with flagrant disregard for the lives of Palestinian civilians. Listen to some of the ambassador's response and then the follow-up question.
It's also very important to remember that since October the 7th, the Hamas fired over 7,500 missiles. And they fire all these missiles in order to kill people, innocent civilians. Just, we were lucky to have our missile defense Iron Dome system, which intercept the majority of the attacking missiles. But can you ask yourself what would have happened if we didn't have this missile defense? So we are blamed for better defending our people?
You're speaking about defence there, and we've heard that being said for the past 2 weeks, that notion that Israel has a right to defend itself. But what does that actually look like? Where is the line crossed? What number of Palestinian people killed is a satisfactory number for the for the Israeli government? And considering there are more than 5,000, including children, that have been killed, where is that line drawn?
What number of Palestinian people killed is satisfactory? What a loaded and biased and offensive question. But worse, of course, it's also untruthful. It's spreading hateful lies through a question, suggesting that Israel is trying to kill Palestinian civilians. If that was the case, you'd see a massive bombardment, not targeted shelling of Gaza. You wouldn't see warnings and delays and safe pathways provided for civilians to get out. And you wouldn't see the planning for a ground incursion into Gaza, which will undoubtedly sacrifice the lives of many Israeli defence personnel in order to try to root out Hamas while avoiding civilian casualties. And this figure of 5,000 Palestinian deaths is simply not to be taken as a fact. It is supplied, like the hospital numbers, by Hamas. Yeah, the same propaganda machine that said a hospital was bombed by Israel and said 500 people had been killed. Facts matter. Hamas propaganda does not. Still, Israel knows what it's up against in Gaza and in the global debate. And while the ambassador insisted Israel was abiding by international humanitarian law, his answers also show his country is in no mood to retreat from its goal.
As I said before, it's not about the numbers. You don't measure the legitimacy by the number, the toll of the other side, fatalities and casualties. The second point that I would like to mention is that Israel is determined to continue in its actions and military actions to depose the Hamas regime and to destroy its military capabilities. We are not going to stop until all these objectives will be fully accomplished.
Yeah, the worry now is this conflict spreading, most obviously into Lebanon, to the north of Israel, if Iran's proxy Hezbollah launches a major attack. Passions and tensions are high, as they should be. I mean, children and other innocents are being killed and injured, and we all feel enormous compassion for all of the civilians caught up in this, Palestinians, Israelis, Australians, and so many others. But the facts matter, and the facts demonstrate there can be no peace or security for anyone, including Palestinians, while Hamas is allowed to function.